Hey kids, Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. Now, biking goes on of course in these troubled times, and I've got 5 fat copies of motorcycle news here, loads of stories to go through, so if you're interested in the biking news for the UK for the month of March 2020, stick around and stay tuned. Okay, so another month has flown by, and what a bizarre month March 2020 has turned out to be. I think all our lives have turned out completely differently to how we expected, but biking does go on, and I've got 5 fat copies of MCN here to go through. Loads and loads of stories. Probably best to grab yourself a brew or something. Maybe you want something stronger than water, because this is likely to go on for some while. So stick around, stay tuned. Let's crack on with the bike news. Right, first paper then, and this is from March the 4th. First story here. Down here, rocket launch. The new Triumph Rocket 3 has smashed Hinckley firm's internal 0 to 60 production bike record, reaching the benchmark speed in just 2.73 seconds on a track. Absolutely incredible. This is the new Rocket 3R, which is a bike that I've been riding about 4 weeks ago. I had the bike, and we'll talk more about that later. But incredible bit of kit, and again, later on in one of the stories, we'll see that Bruce Dunn from MCN has been riding that bike as well, the very bike that I had actually. And he did 0 to 60 in 3.17 seconds. Absolutely nuts speed that bike does. Incredible bit of kit. I really enjoyed my time with it. If you've not seen those videos, go and check them out. There's 1 or 2 more still to come. Just to say on that front, I've got quite a few videos in the can of various bikes I've reviewed over the last few months. They've all been recorded before this whole outbreak situation happened. So please don't think that I'm going and riding my bikes or other people's bikes recklessly during this period of lockdown. I personally haven't ridden a bike since the 20th of March, which is 2 days before this lockdown kicked off. So I'm not saying you shouldn't, but that's the view I'm taking. Anyway, more on that a bit later perhaps. Okay, next story. Okay, here we go. Bike Track to work with private firm. Now, Bike Track, they're one of these companies that make trackers for motorcycles. I've actually got a couple of these trackers myself. They're very, very good. But one of the issues that you get with trackers is even if your bike gets stolen and then you work out where it is because you've got an excellent tracker on board, then getting the police to actually attend can be an issue because they're stretched, they're doing other things, particularly at the moment. I mean, this all becomes a little bit maybe irrelevant, but I'll give you the story anyway. So what Bike Track have done is they've teamed up with a private security firm called Securitas Protective Services. And basically what will happen now, if you've got a Bike Track tracker, you can, if your bike gets located, they'll send out a Securitas officer to basically attend the scene and just keep the bike safe until such time as the police can attend. Just a little extra thing that they're doing on the service. They're not too sure how that's going to work out, as I say, particularly in these troubled times, but an interesting add-on to their service there. And that's what you get with these premium trackers, lots of extra things like that. I'm also a fan of Monimoto trackers. I did a review of those. I'll stick a link in the corner somewhere. If you don't want to spend quite as much on your tracker, but you still want to get them, you know, have some sort of level of tracking on your bike, then I do recommend the Monimoto. I've got those on 4 of my bikes, and they cost, you know, it's a one-off fee. They're about 140, 150 quid. And then it's just, I think it's about 20 quid a year for the SIM card, but then you pay no more and you can track them on Google Maps and so on. But anyway, that's what Bike Track are up to. Just a quick interrupt for bike news. A couple of things that I wanted to tell you about. Number one, my sponsor Screen Angels. Don't mention them very much. They've got a special offer on at the moment. 20% off if you use the code Missenden. Use the link below to go and do that. And they're the ones that make the little screen protectors that are particularly good if you've got an expensive TFT screen, or if, like me, on my Honda CRF, for example, here, I've got a very glossy screen. So I've put a matte screen protector on there from Screen Angels, and it just stops the glare in the sunshine. Excellent for that. So as I say, link below, 20% off if you use the code Missenden at checkout. The other one to remind you of, you may have seen my battery video, my other sponsors, UASA. I'm still running for the pretty much the rest of April, my discount code on that. So if you use UASA TMF1, you'll get 10% off of any motorcycle battery from Tainer. Again, links below. And then last but not least, before we get back to bike news, my other sponsor, Bennett's, has asked me just to mention that if you are thinking of sawing your bike, i.e. having the bike off the road during this difficult period, then do keep your insurance running, because of course if you get your garage broken into, or if you keep your bike in a shed or something and it gets stolen, of course you won't have any insurance. So if you are getting your bike sawned, just keep the insurance going. Makes great sense. Right, back to bike news. Right, next up on this same page, Harley's cheapest big twin. Now, sort of infamously, I've never ridden a Harley, which is something I absolutely have to put right, because I love the look of Harleys, and I love bikes that are sometimes thought of as a little bit basic. I just love back to basics biking, and this one very much looks like it's going to tick that particular box. It's their new entry-level Softail, and according to MCN here, it's the cheapest way to own the brand's big twin Milwaukee 8 107 engine. It looks absolutely the bee's knees. I do like the looks of this. It costs £11,495, which is quite expensive actually for a simple-ish bike, but I do like the look of it. And MCN have actually, on the pricing point here, have pointed out that the only fly in the ointment of this bike is that it costs basically the same as the Triumph Bobber, which is 11,650, which comes with a much more attractive spec as standard. But nonetheless, if you want to get into Harley ownership, this is a way of doing it. I do like the stripped back to basics look of it. I'd love to have a go on one. Once the world gets back to normal, I'm going to must tap up a local Harley dealer and see if I can go and ride one of these. It just looks the bee's knees. I like that very much. Alrighty, next up, a couple of stories on the same page here. First up here, new MT10 to take charge, and that is referring to the fact that they've seen these are spy shots here of the new Yamaha MT10 that's going to be turbocharged, would you believe? So patents have basically revealed that last year they had turbocharged plans up their sleeves, so what they've said here is the current machine already produces 155 bhp, but a turbo could see the next MT10 pushing 200 brake horsepower, which would be amazing. I would argue 155 brake horsepower is enough for anyone, but you know, times move on, don't they? But I love the MT10. I rode the MT10 a while back, and of all the MT range, it's definitely my favourite, and it's one of my favourite naked bikes actually. I think if I was after a big super naked, the MT10 would very much be up there alongside things like the Super Duke R, maybe the new Ducati Street Fighter, of which more later. Anyway, this one, the turbocharged one, looking at the spy shots here, it's got a big new fairing on it that appears to have some big intakes, which is likely to be intakes for sucking in air and also to dissipate heat that is likely to come off the bike. Can't wait to see this. Don't know when it's going to come out, but spy shots are out there, so they're obviously working on something. All right, so that's that one. Next up, second big boxer coming. This is a BMW story. And here we see another spy shot of what looks to be an R18 powered boxer BMW. The R18 engine being that new one that they've put in that big bobber style bike that's about to be officially revealed. I think it might even be being revealed today or tomorrow. I seem to remember I had an email saying there's going to be an online reveal of the new R18. But it looks like BMW aren't going to stop there with that big new boxer, but they've come out here with a big cruiser style bike as well. Obviously aimed at the US market, because it does look very much like, you know, some of the big Indians and the big Harleys that we've seen in the past. Some of the things I've highlighted here, it says here at the core of the bike is the same 1802cc flat twin that BMW have already unveiled, puts at 89.8 brake horsepower. It's got a huge fairing up at the front, we can see that. I'm not too keen on this style of bike, it has to be said, but presumably they're aiming this at the American market where these sorts of bikes sell quite well. It's a bagger style, it's got those saddlebags at the back. Again, you either like it or you don't. Not sure I do. And they're expecting it to be unveiled in August ahead of the Sturgis rally in America, if indeed that goes ahead this year. So there we go, another bike manufacturer making use of new engines in multiple platforms. Makes complete sense. So I guess no big surprise there. But yeah, do you like that? Let me know in the comments below. I think if you're going to go for these big American style cruisers, why would you go for a BMW? For me, it would be a Harley or an Indian. I don't know. But there we go. I'd be interested to see what you think on that. All right, next story. Okay, talking point. This is the letters page on MCN. And I'm absolutely chuffed here to see this letter being made the star letter, because MCN, I often criticise, often push PCP. It's something that I know works for some people, might work for you, but it doesn't work for me. I'm old school. I believe in saving up your money and then buying something once you can afford it, rather than trying to buy it basically on credit or on a hire purchase, which PCP is sort of a form of. Anyway, somebody here has written in, somebody called Johnny Pollard from Cheshire, and he's done a bit of a cost comparison for the life cycle of a motorcycle. Okay, he's compared, arguably not like with like, a 14k R1200 GS against buying a new bike on PCP, and he's worked out that basically over the period of 3 years you would end up spending... Sorry, over 10 years he's worked out the figures. He's worked out that over a period of 10 years, if you bought the GS that I mentioned, it would cost you 9 grand over the 10-year period. If you went for PCP, it would cost you 23,980, albeit you'll get a new bike every 3 years, so you've got to factor that in. So it's not necessarily comparing like with like, but it does point out that there is a cost associated with PCP. A lot of people think it's a cheap way of getting a new bike. Not necessarily so if you take in the whole sort of a life cycle cost of ownership. Anyway, it's always a contentious one, that. I know some people love PCP, doesn't work for me personally, and I'm glad to see that MCN have put the other side of the story as well there, so thumbs up MCN for that. Okay, last story in this first paper. All-round brilliance. What they've done here on the MCN 250, one of their big standard test route, they put the new BMW F900XR, which I recently rode, up against the Yamaha Tracer 900 GT, which is a bike I rode a year or so back and I really loved. And I've had a lot of questions actually about these two bikes. It's obviously a comparison a lot of people are doing. People have asked me which do I prefer, having ridden both. Personally, before I go and look at the verdict, I prefer the F900XR. I love the big TFT on it. It just felt like a bit more of a substantial machine. The Tracer 900 GT, I also love that. It's a very comfortable bike, very capable machine. You would not be disappointed if you owned one of those. But it just felt a little bit more flimsy. The BMW felt a bit more of a solid bike to me. It's a personal thing. But when I say I prefer one over the other, it's a very marginal thing that. I mean, both the Tracer and the F900XR are beautiful bikes. I'd be happy to run either of those, and I think anybody else would too. Let's have a look at MCN's verdict. They said the Yamaha is starting to feel dated, handling and fueling could be better, it's missing an auto blipper, the clutch lever is too far from the bar, its screen is as noisy as the XR's, and it's not cheap. If only it had some of the BMW's refinement and the 2020 toy box. So Michael Neves here, my favourite road tester from MCN, he's also rated the XR above the Tracer for those reasons, so that's quite interesting. Anyway, there we go, that's the first paper, another 4 to go. How are we doing for time? Going for about 10 minutes so far, so okay, that's a quick, oh my goodness me, this could be a 50-minute long video. I'll try and speed up. I know I do speak quickly and a lot of people criticise me for that, but sorry about that if you're not a native English speaker. I'm likely to get faster in this review. Alright, next paper then. I did say there was a lot to get through, 7 stories in this one. First one I pulled out here. New Zero goes the distance. This is a brand new electric bike from bike manufacturer Zero. I rode and fell off of the Zero DSR a couple of years ago, but I loved that bike. It was a little bit heavy, but I did enjoy the bike, and electric bikes, I know there's a whole subject to talk about there. If you've never ridden an electric bike, I do recommend you do so. They are great fun. Anyway, Zero have come out with this. It's called the SRS, and as you can see, it's a faired electric bike. I think it looks really great. I mean, it's a bit quirky looks. I can see that it'd be one of those love it or hate it type bikes, but I think it kind of works. And some of the things I've pulled out here, some of the changes, it's obviously got the full fairing, it's got a more relaxed riding position as well to make it more comfortable. Apparently the pillion seat offers greater levels of comfort as well. It's got lower pegs as well, so if you take passengers, they're going to appreciate it. It's 13% more aerodynamically efficient apparently, and they are expecting an average of 109 miles range on the road, which is always the Achilles heels, isn't it, of these things, of electric bikes, is what are the range. Well, they're saying mixed riding, 109 miles, which sounds sort of doable, doesn't it? I mean, I've got a few bikes that only do about 100 miles to a tank, albeit my CRF, which has got a tiny tank, and my street triple, I get about 130 out of that, but I tend to fill her up when she gets to about 110. So if you went for the full 109 on the SRS, then no doubt range anxiety would be hugely kicking in. But anyway, sounds reasonable. Puts out the equivalent of 110 bhp with 140 foot-pounds of torque, which sounds perfect, you know, real world type of stuff. 4 hours to recharge it from 0 to 95%. So that doesn't sound too bad either, does it? So it's sounding like it's getting a little bit more practical. But here's the kicker. The base model of the SRS will be 19,590. So nearly 20 grand. And then the premium model, which has the rapid charger, 21,590. So say 22 grand for the bike. That is a lot of money for any motorcycle, isn't it? And 22 grand, you can buy yourself the new Triumph Rocket for that, which, let's face it, is a bit more of a desirable bike. You can get yourself a new Panigale V4, you can get yourself a new S1000RR. I'm not sure still. Electric bikes aren't quite there still, are they? I mean, the range, it seems like it's getting there. The charge time is getting better, but the price still has to come down radically for me to be a viable alternative to a internal combustion engine. But well done, Zero, for keep cranking out the models. This one I do think looks nice. Right, next door here, Triumph's global tie-up now. This was the big story of a month or so ago, and it seems ages ago now, doesn't it? Certainly, my goodness me, a lot has happened in the world, hasn't it, since then? But headline here, Brit firm moves all volume production to Thailand to boost growth as the UK R&D division gets more investment. And this caused an awful lot of discussion on the internet, didn't it, when it happened? So a couple of the things I pulled out here. For the first time in history of Triumph motorcycles, all volume production models will be built outside of the UK. They'll continue to build around 4,500 motorcycles at Hinckley, which are basically just the Speed Triple and the Tiger 1200. Everything else is going to Thailand, which sadly, and this is the downside of this story, or for me it is, or the big downside, is that it means 50 employers potentially will lose their jobs there. They've gone into consultation at Hinckley. Hopefully they'll be redeployed or have been redeployed by now. but it's a real choker for those guys that are going to lose their jobs potentially. And of course, it is a bit of a shame that Triumph, a brand that we very much associate with being British, no longer really is British. It's certainly in terms of the manufacturer. I mean, the logical side of me says, what does it matter? All sorts of manufacturers make bikes outside of their homeland. You know, Harley Davidson build bikes, I think, in Thailand. I think they've got a factory quite near Triumph, actually. And there are all sorts of examples of bikes that are built in, you know, South Korea, China, South Africa and Thailand. So Ducati as well, I think, is another one that potentially makes some outside of Italy. Not sure on that. Anyway, so what does it matter? As long as the bike is made to, you know, good standards, the quality is there, the quality control, what does it matter where they're made is my usual view. But in the case of Triumph, there is something about it that rubs a little bit. I understand why people get upset that Triumphs aren't going to be made in the UK, and it is a shame for the UK that manufacturing has to go abroad, but I understand to keep manufacturers competitive, this is what they have to do. Cheaper labour costs means the bikes stay a little bit more affordable, hopefully. So there we go. I'd rather have a Thailand built Triumph than no Triumph at all. They're still designed in the UK. They're still very much an English brand. They're owned by, you know, it's an English privately owned company. So there's all that still. And I look forward to seeing, you know, what goes on in the future. The big surprise for this story for me was actually the number of Triumphs that aren't already made in the UK. There are lots of people riding around on Speedmasters and Street Triples and stuff that we all sort of assumed were made at Hinckley, but in fact turns out aren't. So that's quite interesting. But there we go. Interested in your views, comments below on that one. Righto, next up, third story here. Bullitt 50 is sweet for 16s. This is a really cute little bike from Bullitt. I love this brand. I've never ridden a Bullitt. I was hoping to ride one actually this year. I had a couple of Bullitts lined up for long-term loan this summer. Probably not going to happen now, lass, but maybe I'll just delay it and we'll get to it eventually. But the reason for mentioning this one is it's a 50cc bike. And my question really is, how safe is a 50cc bike? So a couple of the points that I've highlighted here. So it's a twin-cam 50cc four-stroke. It comes in at $2,199, so a very affordable bike. It's called the Hero 50, puts out 5.5 brake horsepower, and it weighs 121 kilograms. So it's very low powered and it's very lightweight. So it's going to be very unintimidating. As a first bike, if you're a teenager, what a hoot. I'd be very excited if I was 16 years old and could have one of these. It would be amazing. All that said though, it is 50cc. I've yet to ride it. I would like to have a go on one. I don't think I've ever, not since I was 16, I haven't ridden a 50cc bike in the last 20 or 30 years. So it'd be really fascinating to see how this rides. But I don't know, I just don't think 50cc is enough to keep up with traffic on the roads, and I'm not sure I want my 16-year-old riding one of these that couldn't keep up with traffic, you know, going up hills, slowing down, not being able to overtake effectively. A little bit unsure about that. So I do love the look of this bike. Great that they're trying to encourage younger riders into motorcycling, of course, but is 50cc safe for your 16-year-old? Again, stick your comments below, be interested to hear. All right, next story. KTM's Plastic Fantastic. Now, this is the new Super Duke R, a bike I'm yet to ride. Was launched about 2 or 3 weeks ago now. They did the launch of this. But the reason why I've mentioned this story is because they've come up with a new manufacturing technique for the subframe, the rear subframe on this. It's a self-supporting injection molded subframe, in other words plastic, but what KTM say is our seat unit also incorporates strands of carbon fibre like hairs in the resin, which gives it extra strength. And in fact, this new plastic subframe can support 1,000 kilograms in weight, so a whole metric ton can sit on this. So my mate Bruce would be fine. Sorry, Bruce. It apparently takes 45 seconds to mould the Duke seat, and it leaves the mould with all the fixings required for panniers, etc., already incorporated into the structure. So a very clever bit of manufacturing. I wonder how long until we get a whole bike that's made out of this. It would certainly make it lighter. It sounds like it would make it stronger as well. The downside, though, it turns out with this, is that the resin only works with black, as it has to be resistant to ultraviolet light, which tries to break down the plastic. So that means you can't introduce a colour pigment. So in that case, there's going to be no more orange KTM subframes, which to my mind isn't a bad thing. I know it's their corporate colour for KTM, but the whole orange thing, a bit like Kawasaki with insisting on the green. I know it's part of the brand, and I know that's important, but I'd like to see more colour ranges generally from all manufacturers, let alone KTM. But anyway, subframes, it looks like, certainly on the new Super Duke R, they're going to be black. So that's a good thing as well. But interesting that these new technologies are getting incorporated in their bike manufacturing now. I find that one fascinating for some reason. A ton weight on a piece of plastic, just incredible. Right, next story here. New Tiger 1200 spotted, another spy shot story, and I think this looks great. The Tiger 1200, I rode it a couple of years ago. I like the bike in terms of the technology it had available, very much, you know, up there with the rest of them in terms of the tech, and it looked lovely as well, but my goodness me, it was a big, heavy motorcycle. I just struggled with moving it around. It was a lardy old beast, and for that reason, I couldn't live with one. This new one, though, number one, it looks nice. They've taken the styling from the new 900, I think. The new headlights look a bit sleeker and so on. And according to the story, they've made it lighter. So this could be the new 1200 that really ticks all the boxes. So really looking forward to, when this one eventually breaks cover, having a go on this. Some of the highlights of this one, it says the new bike looks sleeker, slimmer, with more off-road potential. Yeah, I agree with that. There's a new engine in play, but it's much more than a small refresh, apparently, so that's great news. Shaft drive looks lighter too. There's new suspension front and rear. They're saying that current models use WP suspension, but they're expecting a move to shower forks like the 900 for this model. They've ditched the single-sided swing arm in favour of a more conventional design, which should result in a considerable drop in weight, and that's the thing that I'd want to see. That was the one Achilles heel of the Tiger 1200. Triumph to unveil them towards the end of the year before the January 2021 deadline for Euro 5 models. So that's why they brought it out, to be Euro 5 compliant. I think it looks great. Hopefully this means the new Triumph Tiger 1200 will be a more viable bike for people like me who are a bit wimpy, and although lovely to ride, when I came to a stop on this bike, I just felt I was going to drop it all the time, and that's not a nice feeling, so would put me off getting one. But this one, potentially, nice bike. I've currently got in the garage, unfortunately I can't ride it, a 900. I did manage to get a few videos in on that bike before the clampdown happened, so there will be some videos on the new Tiger 900 coming to my channel, so stick around and stay tuned if you're interested in that bike. Without wanting to spoil what I'm going to say, I have to say I've been really impressed with that bike. It's a lovely bit of kit. If this new 1200 follows on in that style, it's going to be a nice machine. All right, moving on. Oh, this is brilliant. Witness Ski Speedway. This is in the bucket list series. MCN each week says some things that should be on your biking bucket list. And I don't think I've ever pointed one of these out on Bike News before. But this one, it's something called Speedway. It's actually called skioring, and it's something that's done in Austria. Now, I'm a very keen skier myself, so this is why this kind of appealed to me. But basically, dirt bikes, big, spiky tyres, and then a skier basically holding onto a rope attached to the side, a bit like in sort of sidecar style. And apparently what this does is the skier actually gives the bike grip on the corners. I just think it's nuts. Those Austrians, they are nutters, aren't they? But I think it just looks like a lot of fun, and what a great thing to do in the winter if you happen to have a snowy flat track available. Looks like a hoot. I'd love a go kind of slowly. I think it would be hilarious, either on the bike or on the skis. Brilliant. What's your rate to that? Too dangerous or good fun? I like the sound of that. Well done, the Austrians. Alrighty, and the final story in this paper. Aha! Back to the big old rocket. Look who's talking. Love that headline. Well done, MCN, for doing that. The Sun would be proud. So MCN's dyno reveals Triumph's new Rocket 3 is the most grunt of any bike we've ever tested. And then they talk about why torque is so important. One of the reasons I was really thrilled to see this article in here is because this very bike, KY69 FGC is the number plate, is the bike that I borrowed, as I say, about a month or so ago. I had it after MCN. And a lot of people mentioned on the first videos that I put up that the rear tyre on the bike looked like it was shot. And this is the reason why. Bruce Dunn, again, I think it's him, has been riding this bike. Tester Bruce Dunn shows the reasons why torque beats power, and he's obviously doing this burnout on the very back tyre that I then rode on, I suspect. But anyway, great fun, and what an amazing picture as well. It looks really cool. Anyway, they've said Triumph's 2020 Rocket 3 is not only the biggest capacity production bike on the planet, it also the torquiest motor we've ever strapped onto the MCN dyno, putting out a whopping 146.53 foot-pounds of torque. Incredible bit of kit. With the traction control switched off, a hefty crack on the throttle sees the Rocket 3 vaporising its 240 section rear Avon into a cloud of rubber atoms while it scrabbles and spins up the strip. I'm not surprised. I never even dared ride the bike with traction control off. When I had it, it was sort of back end of February. It was pretty in the main wet. I think I had one dry day, and I did go out and do one video on the dry sunny day, but otherwise it was wet when I rode it, so I wanted that ABS and traction control firmly turned on. What they've said here is what is perhaps more impressive is the way the Rocket holds on to the torque. The engine hits its peak figure at just shy of 4,000 RPM and produces the majority of that peak value throughout the entire rev range. It's the best torque curve of anything we've ever produced. That's what Triumph said. And I agree, when I rode it, in fact, I've still got another video or two to come on the Rocket 3, so again, if you're interested in this bike, stick around and stay tuned to the channel. And one of the things that struck me was that there seems to be torque everywhere. You can ride it slowly, it pulls fine, you can ride it fast, it still keeps pulling like a train. What an incredible bike, it looks amazing. Would I want to live with one? Another question. You have to watch my my videos on the bike to find out the answers to that one. Alrighty, that's paper 2. We've got another 3 to go. How are we doing for time? Gosh, I've been whittering on. I'll try and speed up. Alrighty, next paper then. First story in here. I did say there was a lot. Maybe I should have done this as a two-parter. Perhaps I will do it as a two-parter. We'll see. Anyway, cracking on. Here we go. New bobber for less bob. Indian. So this, again, I've covered the way back at the start of Bike News. We talked about the new Harley. And then we looked at something else that I can't remember what it was now. But anyway, latest Indian 60 offers style and substance for under 10k. So here's a bike that, again, offers you a big V-twin. It looks amazing. I do like Indians. I rode the... was it the Bobber Scout? Can't remember exactly which one I rode, but I did. It's the first Indian I've ridden. I rode it back in the summer. Borrowed one from Crazy Horse up in Bury St Edmunds, and it was a brilliant bike. If we weren't in this lockdown this summer, I would like to have gone back to Crazy Horse and maybe ridden this one, but maybe I'll have to wait till next year as well. Anyway, this particular bike, it's called the Bobber 60. It's powered by a 999cc V-twin. Puts out 78 brake horsepower. Perfect amount of power in the real world. It can be restricted so that A2 licence holders can ride it, so it gets restricted to 47 brake horsepower. What a cool bike to have as your first bike, incredible. And it's £9,995, which is a pretty good value bike if you ask me. £1,900 cheaper than its larger capacity brother. But it is £1,150 more than Harley Davidson's entry-level 883 iron. So, you know, there's a bit of choice around that price bracket, isn't there? But this does look nice, and it's just something a little bit different, dare I say it, probably a bit rarer than a Harley. So there we go, two colour options available, very black and quite black. So the very black one's called Thunder Black, and then the other one's called Thunder Black Smoke. So hope you like black bikes, but it is all blacked out, and I just like the look of that one. So yeah, I don't know. There's a glaring hole in my garage for a cruiser bike. I'm yet to find one that's going to fill it, but I'll keep looking. One day, maybe I'll get a bike, another bike, and it'll be a cruiser. But I've got to keep saving my pennies up first. It's going to be another year or two before I have enough cash to buy another bike. All right, next up. We'll move on from the Norton stories. There's been loads of those, and things just seem to be going from bad to worse there, don't they? But here we go. 250cc Bullitt. Another Bullitt. We mentioned the 50cc earlier. This Bullitt is called the BlueRock 250. And why this is interesting to me is because it is a 250cc. In the past, the Bullitts tended to be 125cc bikes based on the old GN 125, the Suzuki engine made in China. Now they come up with this 250cc version V-twin, which would probably sound amazing. Puts out a top speed of 78 miles per hour, apparently. 16.7 brake horsepower on tap, and weighs in at 151 kilograms, which all sounds like pretty good numbers to me. 3,599 the bike will cost you. It's the Chinese firm Lifan makes the V-twin motor, and it's the same engine that they produced for the Lexmoto Vendetta 250 apparently. But looks really nice, and again, I was due to be borrowing one of these long term in the summer. Not going to happen probably now, unless I do it in the autumn, assuming the lockdown disappears by then. If not, next year, definitely going to be riding the Bullitt BlueRock. These sort of classic style bikes I really like, and I just like the fact that you can buy bikes a much more reasonable, a brand new bike at a much more reasonable price range, less than 3,600 for now. I think that looks great. Alrighty, next up, moving right along. Bike theft being beaten by tech. We know about bike theft being an issue still, particularly in London. I'm going to be making a video soon about how I secure my bikes in the garage while we're in lockdown. But this one was of interest because they talk about the Met Police using technology to catch some of the bikes here. So they're saying, first of all, that actually by using technology, they've seen a huge reduction in bike thefts in London, which has got to be good news. So they're saying that 9,000 bikes and scooters were stolen in 2019. In 2017, 15,500 were stolen in London. So a huge reduction, and they're saying that's because they're using all sorts of new methods that include things like high-powered motorbikes to chase them, DNA tagging spray, electronic pro spikes, they're like stingers that deflate the tyres, automatic number plate recognition, assertive pursuit tactics. That I think is when they actually ride and knock riders off, which was a bit controversial at the time, but I agree with them. We haven't seen much of that since. They even use a helicopter supported by investigators who use CCTV, forensics and communications data to try and track these fellas down. So, I mean, that sounds, I can't believe, from what we said earlier on about when we were talking about the trackers right at the start of Bike News, I'm not sure that if you have your bike stolen in London, the police are actually going to put that much more effort into finding it once it's been stolen. But if they actually see one being stolen, they've got these tools available to them. But there we go. But good news, I guess the takeaway bit from this is that the reduction from the 2017 figure from 15,500 to 9,000 is great news. So, and you know, the police have a hard job, don't they? So I'm not having a go at the police by any respect here. All right, next up, giant plans for Mini Africa Twin. Check this out. This is the new, smaller version of the Africa Twin, much anticipated. I think this is a spy shot or a mock-up. So the basis of the new bike, according to MCN, will be an evolution of the Honda NC series bikes. The engine is going to be enlarged to 790cc, and it will have the option of a DCT gearbox. We expect the bike to be built with non-adjustable screen, a simple dash and non-adjustable suspension, obviously building it down to a price. Honda remains tight-lipped, but we expect it to be unveiled at the EICMA Motorcycle Show in November. It certainly looks great if this is the real bike. £8,500 the Tenere cost, so they're expecting this to be similar sort of price. So yeah, it looks really good. And of course this will also be A2 licence compatible. Now I recently rode the big new Africa Twin, the 1100. Again, I've got videos in the can that will be coming up in the next weeks and months on that one. So stick around, stay tuned if you like the new Africa Twin. That's coming up. I did enjoy that bike, but again, the standout feature for me was it was just a massive bike, big and heavy. This thing won't be big and heavy, so you know, could be exactly in that sweet spot. This sort of mid-size adventure bike area, I think, absolutely hits a sweet spot, and there's a lot of competition in that area now, isn't there? Not least from things like the new Tiger 900 I mentioned before. So lots of great bikes to choose from. Look forward to seeing what the new mid-size Africa Twin is like to ride. Okay, last story in the penultimate newspaper. Comfortable thrill seekers. On the MCN 250 they've pitted the Kawasaki Ninja 1000SX that I haven't yet ridden against the BMW R1250RS, which I have ridden. I pulled this out because these are two what I would call old school sport tourers, a sort of genre that got a little bit forgotten over the last 5 to 10 years I think, but seems to be coming back a little bit more into favour now with bikes like these and the Super Duke, you know, what's the one, not the, I can't remember what it's called now, the GT, that's the one, which are all proper old school sport tourers. So I'm glad, I think they look great. They give you some of the looks of sports bikes, but the comfort of big adventure bikes, you could put it that way, I suppose. Anyway, what have MCN said about these? Which one do they think wins? They've said that if you're a sports bike fan wanting a more relaxed ride, then the 1000SX is not only amazing value, its light handling and punchy motor will also satisfy that urge for thrills. Thumbs up there. The BMW is larger, has enhanced comfort for rider and pillion, but considering its price and sporty focus, impressive level of tech as standard, the Ninja 1000SX has to come out on top on this review. So MCN, although they've given them both 4 stars, it's quite hard to, it's not a very granular measure, is it, when you've only got 5 stars? They think that the Ninja 1000SX actually takes the lead here. I'd love to have a go on it. I love 4-cylinder bikes. I don't own any 4-cylinder bikes myself, so I'm always chuffed and excited by how smooth 4-cylinder bikes are when I ride them. I'd love a go on the Kawasaki 1000SX. It's quite hard for me to actually ride Kawasaki's for some reason. I've mentioned this before. Kawasaki UK are actually based very close to where I live, literally within 5 miles of where I live, but for some reason they don't want to lend me bikes. Well, they do want to, but they never actually get around to doing it, so a little bit of a gripe there, sorry about that, but Kawasaki, you know where I am, get in touch. I'd love to ride your 1000SX. Alrighty, okay, so that's it for that paper. Quick swig of water, and then we'll get on to, oh no, got another 2 to go, goodness me. Alrighty, okay, here we go then, moving right along rapidly. Maybe I should keep that last paper. Yeah, I think what I'll do is keep that last paper for next bike news. I suspect MCN may be getting thinner over the next month because of lockdown. I don't know, I might be wrong there. They are still producing the magazine or paper. So I'll keep that for next time and then we'll go through that then. Otherwise, this is going to be a really long edition. All right, already over half an hour. Okay, last one then. So first story here. New London threat to bikes. Now, again, I don't want to be too London-centric here. I don't live in London myself, but this is another London story. And I raise this because this is a bit of a choker here. Hackney Council have proposed emissions-based charging permits for motorcycles. So at the moment, you can park your motorcycle, if you can find a spot, for free pretty much. But they're saying now in Hackney that the majority of bikes will cost £61 for a permit to park, but some older models could cost as much as £214 a year to park, which is a real shame because, as I've said here, I don't know who's quoted here. George Dennison, he's a motorcycle business owner, says, 2-wheelers are the solution, but they're treating it like a problem. They're asking the same money as a car when you can fit 5 or 6 bikes in the same size space. It's feared that the Hackney scheme could soon inspire other councils to follow suit. And that's the thing, isn't it? This is potentially the thin edge of the wedge. If Hackney put this parking scheme in place, what's to stop other councils doing the same? And before you know it, you've got to pay a lot of money to park your bike in London, which is which is really odd. I think councils should be encouraging people to use motorcycles in London. It cuts down on emissions, it cuts down on congestion, it gets people to work quicker. Bikes should be encouraged, not legislated against. I hate this sort of thing. Interested to hear your views on that one. Comments below, please. Alrighty, next up. Big helmet changes coming. That isn't the story at all, but they are coming. We'll talk about that in a future bike news perhaps. But what I want to do here was just point out that my mate Henry Cole and Alan Millyard and Sam Lovegrove are all back on the box this month with another series of the Motorbike Show. It says here... Even the computer's giving up. It says here that the Motorbike Show will return to our screens on ITV4 of the first episode showing in the middle of April. So in the next week or two, keep your eyes out. Henry Cole and crew are going to be back. I love these guys. I like the bike show, obviously, and now having met Alan and Henry, I know that they are genuinely lovely guys. And so really looking forward to seeing this. A little bit of light in these gloomy lockdown days. So keep your eyes open for the new edition of the bike show. All right, next up, little plug there for those guys. Dirt bike tactics in fight against theft. This is a similar story actually to the one we just talked about, so I'll skirt over it a little bit. But Yorkshire Police, or West Yorkshire Police, are using CRF 250Ls, a bike that is close to my heart. I'm an owner of a CRF 250 myself, so that they can chase down motorcycle thefts in their area. So they're saying the off-road bikes allow officers to get to incidents that other police units would struggle to get to, and it allows us to cover ground quickly. Since February 2020, the team have attended 123 calls using the CRFs and seized 18 motor vehicles for various offences on the back of that. So it looks like the CRFs are doing great business for West Yorkshire Police, so that's great news. Good to see the CRFs out there. I love mine, I haven't ridden it for ages. Must put that right soon. Okay, next penultimate story. We're getting towards the end. Thank you for sticking around. You've done well. 4 on tour. Spy Shot show Ducati's Multistrada V4 is almost finished. So the Multistrada, of course, famously has the big V-twin. Looks like the V4 version is coming along. New spy shots have emerged that finally confirm Ducati are working on a V4 Multistrada. Just a matter of time, I assume. We expect the peak power of nearly 200 brake horsepower and around 90 foot-pounds of torque. Paired with a new motor is a brand new chassis, so completely new bike really. The other big new feature Ducati are testing is cruise control radar. We'd expect Ducati to unveil the finished machine at EICMA in November. So there we go, a new Multistrada. It'll be nice to see if this has any effect on the weight. Again, always my complaint about Multistradas is they feel top heavy to me. Maybe this one won't be so much. The new bike looks to have a conventional swing arm, which is a bit of a shame. I like the single swing arm on the old Multistrada. Says don't be surprised if the Multistrada is around £20,000. So I expect it will be. That's the sort of price that these premium top-end bikes are now, isn't it? A lot of money. Not that many people I know, including myself, can afford 20 grand to spend on a new bike. But there we go. Eventually they filter down to the second-hand market. And I guess that's something that we've got PCP to be thankful for, is that people that have PCP bikes that give them back at the end of the term rather than pay the final fee and keep them does mean we get lots of nearly new bikes in the second-hand market, so that's a good thing. Anyway, so there we are, new Multistrada V4 on its way. Hopefully I'll get a chance to ride that when it comes out. And then the last but not least story on here, back in the real world. Sure, they're hot on track, but which shines on the MCN 250. They've pitted the two of my favourite sports bikes at the moment here, the Ducati Panigale V4S against the BMW S1000RR M Sport. Now, I've only ridden the standard bikes of both the V4 and the S1000RR. They are both beautiful, beautiful bikes. And unlike sports bikes of old, these two bikes in particular are very, very easy to ride. That's what shocked me about these. Number one, they're not that uncomfortable for sports bikes, particularly the BMW. And they flatter your ride. And because of the technology on them now, they're easy to ride. You can ride them through town. They don't judder and jolt. They just flatter your ride, and they're beautiful machines to ride, and they're beautiful machines to look at. Both of them now. The BMW looks gorgeous, as does the Panigale. I think the new Panigales don't look quite as nice as the old original one, actually. And the S1000R, now it's got the, or RR I should say, now it's got symmetrical lights at the front. I think that looks as good as a Panigale. So both beautiful bikes, I'd be happy with either. What's their verdict around the MCN 250? Michael Neves, my favourite reviewer, has been doing these. He's given the S1000RR 5 out of 5 and the V4 4 out of 5. So that surprised me slightly. I thought the Ducati might win. But he said, if you want the dream bike, the one that you can't stop staring or thinking about, then the Ducati is the clear choice. Things are more civilised on the S1000RR though. It manages to deliver Ducati matching performance while being smoother, quieter, more frugal and infinitely more comfortable, which actually is something I found as well. It was a comfortable bike. So it may lack the Italian's drama, but even in its M Sport spec, it's £5 cheaper. So it's better value and basically argues a better bike on the road. So there we go. That's their verdict. There we are, and that's it for another bike news. Goodness me. Sorry that was so long. I hope you found that of some interest. As ever, really enjoy reading your comments below on any of those stories. You know, I'm just an ordinary fella like you. These are just my opinions. I'm not saying I'm an expert in anything. So if you've got a radically different opinion or you think I've got something wrong, would love to hear that down below. Also, what do you think to this slightly different filming setup? I've got more lights involved this time. I've got a big light behind me that I don't normally have, or a diffuser, and I've moved the camera to what's called linear mode, so it doesn't look quite so wide in here. Has it worked? Be interested to see if it has or not. I'll find out in a minute, and gosh, I hope it has, because I've just been talking for 40 minutes apparently, or thereabouts, so I don't really want to have to re-record that. Anyway, that's it for now. Hope you've enjoyed that, as I say. Do keep safe, do keep yourself indoors, keep up with this big social isolation thing. Wherever you are in the world, I'm sure you've probably got similar rules to what we have here in the UK now. Stay indoors, protect the NHS, save lives is what the government keep telling us, and that's certainly what I'm doing. It's I'm recording this on Wednesday to put out on Thursday. I'm on day 12 now of our family quarantine. Unfortunately, my daughter got what we thought was a COVID virus 2 weeks ago now, nearly 2 weeks ago, a temperature of 104. It was all very scary, but I'm glad to say she's much, much better now, but that does mean that we've all been locked in the house, haven't been able to go out to shops, been relying on neighbours to bring us food and stuff, and it's been remarkably all right. As a YouTuber, I'm a bit of a hermit anyway. I tend to be in here recording stuff and editing stuff. It's been okay, but anyway, I'm looking forward to getting out for a takeaway curry at some point in the next 4 days. Alrighty, that's it for now. Stay safe. Look forward to speaking to you again soon. Till then, this has been the Mr. Flyer. Cheerio.